Have you ever checked your bank account at the end of a completely normal month and felt confused instead of shocked? Like nothing dramatic happened. No luxury purchases, no vacations, no crazy spending. Just regular life. Groceries, subscriptions, a few meals out, maybe a random online order or two. And yet, your balance dropped way more than you expected. Look, that feeling right there is not a math problem. It's a value problem. My name is Daniel, and I probably spend way too much time thinking about money psychology and how small, socially accepted expenses slowly drain people without them even noticing. Because here's the thing, a lot of things we spend money on today are not actually worth what they cost anymore. Not in terms of value, not in terms of happiness, and definitely not in terms of long-term financial impact. Prices went up, quality didn't, and our habits stayed the same. So we're paying 2026 prices for 2016 value and pretending that's normal. This is where it gets interesting. Most people think they have a spending problem. They don't. They have a default spending system built around outdated value assumptions. Things that used to be reasonable are now silent budget killers. Let's start with something that people get defensive about immediately: fast food. Fast food was supposed to be cheap. That was the entire identity. Quick, affordable, convenient. Now, a basic meal can easily hit $12, $15, sometimes even $18, and that's before delivery fees if you're ordering through apps. Now think about this. If you spend $15 on fast food 3 times a week, that's $45. That's about $180 a month. Over a year, you're looking at over $2,000 on food that disappears in 10 minutes and holds zero lasting value. And psychologically, it feels small because each purchase is small. That's the trap. Here's the thing. Convenience has become overpriced, and people are paying premium prices for low-quality convenience because they're mentally anchored to the old idea that it's just fast food. But the price reality changed. Your mental pricing didn't. Now think about restaurant dining in general. Not special occasions, just casual eating out. A regular dinner for two can easily hit $60 to $100 without even trying. Add drinks, tip, tax, and suddenly one night out costs what groceries for several days would cost. I'm not saying never eat out. That's not realistic. But when it becomes a default lifestyle instead of an intentional choice, the numbers get aggressive fast. Now imagine you eat out twice a week at $70 per visit. That's $140 weekly, about $560 monthly, over $6,700 a year. That's not luxury spending, that's normal behavior. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Now let's talk about something even more normalized: subscriptions. Streaming services, apps, cloud storage, premium tools, memberships. It starts with $5 here, $9 there, $12 somewhere else. Individually, harmless. Collectively, quietly expensive. Most people don't even know how many subscriptions they have because the charges are automatic. Invisible spending feels painless, and painless spending gets ignored. Now think about this. 5 subscriptions at $10 each is $50 a month. That's $600 a year for services you might only use occasionally. And psychologically, we justify it by saying it's only $10. But wealth erosion happens in only $10 increments. This is where the psychology gets uncomfortable. Another thing that is no longer worth your money is constant phone upgrades. Every year or two, a new phone releases with slightly better cameras and slightly faster performance, and people rush to upgrade like their current device is suddenly obsolete. But in reality, most modern smartphones are already more powerful than what the average person even needs. You're paying $1,000 plus for marginal improvements while using the phone for texting, social media, and videos. That's like buying a sports car just to drive in traffic. Now imagine upgrading your phone every 2 years for $1,000. Over 10 years, that's $5,000 for incremental convenience, not necessity. Here's the deeper truth. Modern marketing monetizes impatience. Now think about brand name groceries versus generic alternatives. This one is subtle. You walk into a store, grab the familiar brand, and pay 20 to 40% more for essentially the same product. Same ingredients, same function, different packaging psychology. Companies understand that familiarity reduces price sensitivity, and when inflation hits, that price gap becomes even more expensive. This is where it gets interesting. You're not paying for better quality, you're paying for emotional comfort. Another thing that quietly lost its value is expended warranties on low-cost items. Retailers push them aggressively because they're profitable, but statistically, most small electronics never fail within the warranty window. So you're paying extra for protection you probably won't use. It feels responsible, it feels smart, but mathematically, it often isn't. Now think about the average $30 warranty added to multiple purchases throughout the year. That can easily become $200 to $300 annually in just-in-case spending. Money spent on hypothetical problems instead of actual value. And speaking of hypothetical value, luxury clothing trends. Not high-quality essentials, trendy fast fashion cycles. People buy outfits for occasions, photos, or short-term trends, wear them a few times, then move on. The cost per wear becomes absurd. A $100 outfit worn twice is essentially $50 per use. Compare that to a $60 timeless item worn 30 times. That's $2 per wear. One is emotionally driven spending. The other is value-based spending. But social media rewired how people perceive clothing value. Visibility replaced durability. Now let's talk about delivery apps. This one hurts the most financially because you're not just paying for food, you're paying for delivery fees, service fees, surge pricing, and tips. A $12 meal suddenly becomes $25. That's more than double. Now imagine ordering delivery 3 times a week with an extra $10 in fees each time. That's $30 weekly, $120 monthly, $1,440 yearly in fees alone. Not food, fees. That's the price of convenience psychology. Here's another one people rarely question. New cars purely for status. Depreciation is ruthless. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it can lose thousands in value. Yet many people stretch their finances just to drive something newer than they actually need, not because their current car is unreliable, but because of perceived lifestyle pressure. Now think about this simple math. A $600 car payment equals $7,200 a year. Invested instead at a modest return over several years, that difference becomes massive. But psychologically, a car gives immediate validation. Investments give delayed validation, and humans are wired for immediate reward. Another thing that is becoming less worth your money is impulse online shopping. One-click purchasing removed friction, and friction used to protect your wallet. When buying required effort, people naturally filtered their decisions. Now, convenience bypasses rational thinking. You see it, you like it, you buy it, and the package arrives before your brain even processes whether you actually needed it. Now think about $20 impulse purchases twice a week. That's $40 weekly, $160 monthly, nearly $2,000 a year on things you probably don't even remember buying 6 months ago. Here's the reality check most people avoid. None of these expenses feel financially dangerous in isolation. That's why they survive in your budget. But combined, they quietly block saving, they quietly delay investing, they quietly increase financial stress. This is where it gets psychological, not mathematical. Because money leaks rarely come from one big mistake. They come from socially normalized spending patterns. And the scariest part is, you can earn more money and still feel broke if your normal spending categories are overpriced in today's economy. Now think about lifestyle inflation. You get a raise, your spending adjusts automatically. Better food, better subscriptions, better gadgets, better convenience. But your savings rate stays the same, or worse, decreases. So your income goes up, but your financial peace doesn't. That disconnect confuses people. Here's the actionable insight most people overlook. The goal is not to stop spending, it's to question value. Ask one simple mental question before recurring purchases. Is this still worth its modern price? Not its old price, not its emotional price, its current real price.
because a lot of purchases that made sense 5 years ago no longer make financial sense today. And if even a few of these spending categories get optimized, the financial impact compounds faster than people expect. Cutting $300 in low-value spending monthly equals $3,600 yearly. Invested over time, that gap becomes life-changing capital instead of invisible consumption. Look, I'm not saying eliminate joy spending. That's unrealistic and honestly unhealthy. But there's a massive difference between intentional spending and automatic spending. One gives satisfaction, the other gives temporary dopamine followed by financial confusion. And once you become aware of which expenses are no longer worth it, something interesting happens. You stop feeling guilty about money because you're no longer confused about where it's going. You're making conscious trade-offs instead of unconscious leaks.
Here's the thing. We live in an economy where convenience is premium priced, habits are automated, and small expenses are psychologically disguised as harmless. But harmless spending repeated consistently becomes financially loud over time. And if this made you mentally audit even a few of your normal expenses, that alone is a powerful shift, because awareness usually comes before financial control. Money doesn't usually disappear in dramatic ways. It disappears quietly, predictably, systematically. And the people who build wealth are not always the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who stop overpaying for things that stopped being worth it years ago. Now, I'm genuinely curious. Which expense do you think has become the biggest waste of money in your monthly budget without you realizing it?